today's show, we're going to talk to Kathrin Hutson about her book, The Witching Vault. So do stay with us. When we come back, we'll introduce you to Kathrin Hutson. If you're just joining us, welcome to the Writer's Corner live show. I'm your host, Brigitte Limbanda from Cape Town in South Africa. Today's stream is made possible by StreamYard, Creative Edge, and BeLive Media, helping you to humanize your brand. If you want to know when we go live, please go ahead and do follow our Facebook page. And over on YouTube, please click on the subscribe button and the notification button so that you will know when we go live. And in today's show, we're going to be introducing you to Kathrin Hutson, and she's going to talk about her book, The Witching Vault. But before we introduce Kathrin, I'd like to introduce my co-host and friend, Mary Elizabeth Jackson. She's a special needs and disabilities advocate and the award-winning author of the Poolicious children's book series. She's in Nashville in the USA and I'm in Cape Town in South Africa. So we'd love to know in the comments, do say hello to us. And we'd love to know where you are joining us from. So without any further ado, let me welcome Mary.
Hi.
Hello.
Good morning. Well, good evening to you. Good morning here in the States. We're excited to be here this morning and we're excited about our show. And we're excited about our author. So we're going to have a good day. And, it's kind of cold here. It's hot where you are. And but, we are looking forward to this show. And how are you today?
I'm very well, except for the fact that it's really, really hot in Cape Town, and I feel like I'm melting.
I feel like
else is good.
I feel like that where we are between the two of us is like either Goldilocks or, a woman you just can't make happy. I'm too hot. I'm too cold,
Absolutely. Somewhere in between.
I know. So we're excited about our show and we're going into our new year and we're going to make 2021 awesome, right?
Absolutely. Totally looking forward to all the authors we're going to be meeting this year. There's a whole range of them. And by the way, if you haven't yet been on the Writer's Corner live show, do connect with us. Connect with Mary and we'll get you on the schedule for 2021.
Yeah, we're excited about that. We want to say hi to all of our friends that watch and who are loyal to us and our buddies that we've picked up along our journey who watch and support us.
Absolutely. And I want to say, before we introduce Kathrin, a warm welcome to everyone who's joined the show on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitter, on Periscope. And of course, we don't want to forget our audience on LinkedIn. A warm welcome to each one of you. So Kathrin is an international best-selling author, and she tells us she is a firm believer in piling on intense action, showing a little character skin, and never skimping on violent means to bloody ends, she says. Wow, that is pretty interesting.
Yeah. That's a lot.
We want to know more about that. That's a mouthful. And we said that you are in Tennessee. I'm in Cape Town. She's in Colorado with her husband, a daughter, 2 dogs, Sadie and Brucewillis. What a nice dog name.
I know.
Wow.
I love that when I read her bio.
I know.
Yeah, that's a cool name.
I know.
He must be Studley, the dog. And she's probably buried under snow wherever she is in Colorado. So
Probably. Okay, so let's not waste any time and let's welcome Kathrin to the show, shall we? Kathrin, welcome to the show. So glad to have you with us today.
Hi, Brigitte and Mary. Thank you so much for having me. I'm thrilled to be here.
Oh, we're thrilled to have you. So, do you have a lot of snow on the ground where you are?
We have a little. We got quite a bit of snow a couple weeks ago, but Colorado has this wonderful tendency to let the sun out during the winter. It melts all the snow. We lived in Vermont before coming back to Colorado. I was born here, and the sun didn't come out for 6-7 months out of the year. This is much better.
Yeah.
Wow, that's kind of crazy, It gets very, very hot here. But Kathrin, I want to jump right in because there's so much we want to know about you and your book and being an author. So, when did you first discover that you had the ability to write and get published? How did that come about?
Oh, well, those are probably two different points. But I discovered writing, that it was something I could do and something that I loved on my 10th birthday, actually. And I had been having this awful nightmare for weeks about my favorite movie at the time, which was Fern Gully. It's a cartoon movie about fairies. And I wanted the ending to change so badly. So I kept having this recurring, I called it a nightmare, excuse me, about wanting to change the ending to the movie, and I never could. I woke up on my 10th birthday and immediately just the light clicked on that, oh, this is what storytellers do. They change the endings to be exactly what they want. And then I started writing, and it just snowballed from there. It was like love at first word, pretty much.
That is awesome. That's a real gift and talent to be that insightful so young. So,
Yeah,
how old were you? Kind of like a second part to Brigitte's question. How old were you when you were first published?
That was, let's say, a little over 5 years ago. So in October of 2015 was when I published my first book, Daughter of the Draken. And that was after an entire series of traditional query letters sent to traditional publishing agents. And I racked up quite the impressive stack of rejection letters. And then decided, you know what, well, I want this story to be out there. I know that it's good. I know people are going to love it as much as I do. I will go the indie publishing route. And, through trial and error, figured out how this works. And actually, that book, Daughter of the Draken, and Sleepwater Beat, the first book in the Blue Helix series, were the only two that I tried to query traditionally, and they were both rejected. And Daughter of the Draken I think it got to like number 200 or something in the entire Kindle store on Amazon after I published it, which was huge. I didn't realize how huge it was at the time. And the Sleepwater Beat became an international bestseller on its own afterwards. So I figured that this path I'm on is the right one for me, and my books are still getting out there and people are still enjoying them.
That is awesome. And you know what? It's interesting to those two different paths and how you can have huge success and you can have big failures with both. And each is sort of a perfect recipe for each author, So what we want to know is, okay, in your bio, you describe yourself as someone who likes to pile on intense action. We can see that about you, right? Show a little character skin, and that never skimps on violent means to bloody ends. Now, I'm reading this because I don't want to get any of these words wrong. So it sounds like intense. All that sounds very intense, and that's what's required for books like that to be successful. Because as a human race, we are becoming so much more desensitized to things. It seems like we have to keep upping the thrill, magnet for books and stories and movies and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So tell us a little bit about, kind of your approach to this and the intensity that you love.
Sure. So I do consider everything that I write to be dark fiction across the board, no matter if it's sci-fi, dystopian, or, dark fantasy, grimdark, and even urban fantasy too. my goal through specifically writing dark fiction is to bring to light things that most of the time we don't want to look at, and framing it through, the lens of fantasy or sci-fi or fictional characters that we're able to fall in love with, and bringing in those broken and still yet very human pieces of ourselves into these stories. And I find myself writing a lot of my own life experiences into my characters, more and more actually, as I get older and keep doing this. But I am a huge fan of action and violence, and occasionally language, depending on what genre I'm writing in, because that just suits me. There are things that I love to read, and that I really get into, and so far my readers seem like they really appreciate the same intensity that I do. And I always try to I suppose balance those dark parts with either exploring interpersonal relationships between the characters. Again, this is dependent on genre, or like with my urban fantasy series, Accessory to Magic, putting in lots of humor, just making it witty and snarky and lots of attitude that balances out those dark things, because it can be a lot to go through, hardship after hardship after hardship reading about it without that kind of balancing release, I suppose.
Well, that sounds like a very good idea. I mean, you've got to have it's life, without balance we're completely lost. We can't have too much of one and not enough of the other one. So where do you draw your inspiration from? And specifically the Witching Vault, what was the inspiration behind that book?
Yes, so like I said, I do write a lot of my own life experiences into things. It doesn't come about intentionally, I found. So I get into a story and start writing, and everything that I have been through, experienced, have knowledge in, or even daydream about, ends up funneling itself into my books. But specifically with the Witching Vault, there was actually an idea that I had previously for quite some time. So I'm also a fiction ghostwriter, which is the other half of my business, I can say. And the idea of a sort of magical bank came to me when I was writing a different series for a client of mine. And it was actually an idea that I had pitched to this client, and they didn't want it. So I said, okay, well, I'm going to keep it for myself. And so I did, and that became the Witching Vault. And it is, of course, completely different than anything else that I had worked with my client on, and it has my own very specific flavor attached to it. But that's actually where the inspiration for it came from, which is kind of funny. People ask me if I have difficulty as a ghostwriter, putting all my best work out there for my clients, and I get to say that, well, no. I keep the really good ideas for myself and turn them into something I like.
Well, I was just going to ask you that because, when you said your clients, I thought, now, wait a minute, are you a ghostwriter as well?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
How did that happen?
I fell into it. I stumbled upon a webinar by, someone was giving a webinar about how to make six figures as a ghostwriter. And I wondered how the heck that was possible. So I watched the webinar, and I really hadn't known much about ghostwriting beforehand. I really didn't know how it worked. And after all the information that I learned there, I realized that I could sustainably, and as my own business to add into what I do, write fiction full time, all day, every day, and make a living off of that while I'm also working on my own books. And so I dove in with both feet and just kept moving after that, and it's been working out very well.
It is an interesting world. Go ahead, Brigetti.
Now, I want to know, how do you segment your brain to write your own fictional stuff and write for other people at the same time, when most of us have a hard time just writing one book?
Right.
How do you switch? How?
I wish I had an answer for you, Bridgetti, but I really don't. I think it's just the way that my brain is wired. I mean, I can't listen to an entire CD album by the same artist all the way through. I always have to have my music on shuffle, and I always have to be, pulling in different flavors of whatever it is that I'm working on at any given time. So right now I'm working on 4 different books at the same time, and 3 of them are for clients and 1 of them is my own. So it's just the way that my head works, and I wish that I could give other people pointers on how to do that.
I think it's about compartmentalizing, because I recently have just am finishing up on my first ghostwriting project, and I've got 3 others in front of me. And so this is totally a different kind of path, and it's really been quite interesting, and I think it's wonderful. And but balance is very important. And I think you have to kind of compartmentalize, don't you, to keep yourself in, this is what you're doing, and now this is what you're doing, and you kind of switch back and forth, But, when you say that the figures that you're talking about, any writer is like, what? I can do what? Because, yeah, I can do both, and I can make some money because, if I know you've heard this, don't go into writing a book and getting published with the thought that you're going to make millions of dollars. It happens, but it doesn't happen for everybody. And it usually takes about a good 5 years to 10 years for an author to really get themselves, unless they have a lot of connections and they have a lot of money to begin with. It takes a long time to really kind of get yourself a known name and your foot in the door, unless you're, just beyond brilliant, and have those gifts already lined up. The stars are just lined up waiting for you to just put pen to paper, right?
Right. We all hope that happens to us, right? That's exactly what we want. But yeah, it's a long game. A long game calling, business, career, passion, whatever. It's all of those things for me. But I did not, in fact, publish Daughter of the Dragon 5 years ago with the intent of, ever becoming famous or making millions off of the one book, but just for the love of writing. And that's the same reason that I got into ghostwriting, is because I am just so deeply in love with the act of writing, the space that I enter when I'm fully in the zone and writing out stories. And I've written quite a few books in the last 2 years with ghostwriting, and it does take work to compartmentalize those different storylines, different characters, aspects of my brain. At the end of 2020, actually, I was writing 4 books a month for various clients, and that took a lot of practice and a lot of a sacrifice on my part, my family's part. I think the summer of 2019, my husband and daughter didn't see very much of me at all while I was trying to, build up this skill. I suppose it's like going to the gym, exercising muscles, working out. The more you do it, the more ingrained it becomes in you. And I still love it. So it's still what I'm doing.
Okay, we're going to segue from what we were going to ask you. So I have never, we've been running the show for 2.5 years, and I don't think I've ever met anybody who was that much in love with words and writing.
Yeah.
There's no other way of putting it. You just totally have this love affair with words and writing. So who do you ghostwrite for? Do you pick and choose your clients? Is
it all the same genre?
Yeah, so I have a handful of clients right now, which is really nice that most of my working relationships are long-term. So I'm building these relationships with my clients and writing multiple series for them, continuing over and over. Excuse me. So I do get to choose who I work with. And I am fortunate enough to be at the point where I can pick and choose and say yes or no, and work the way that works best for me, so that I can give my clients the best possible product, which really is what it is when I'm looking at it this way. And I've ghostwritten in pretty much every single genre except for romance, and the over anything that falls within the romance genre where romance is something that drives the plot is just not what I can do. So I know where my limits are. I know that I am not a romance writer or author in any sense. But I have written in pretty much every single other genre, lit RPG, post-apocalyptic, science fiction, including like space opera, fantasy, dark fantasy, epic, and the list goes on. But most of what I ghostwrite now is urban fantasy. And so when I realized, after seeing how well my clients' urban fantasy series were doing, that I had written for them, and of course that all comes back into what my clients have at their disposal in terms of investing in these books and publishing them, and how well they do as a result of that. But I realized that I actually had a knack for urban fantasy, which I never had considered previously, because I was always, way more interested in grimdark fantasy and epic, in made-up worlds. And so I decided, hey, okay, I'll take everything that I've learned from ghostwriting and put it into my own series and see how that goes. And so far, it's going very, very well.
Yeah,
I think I've just come up with a name for you. You're a career author.
Thank you. Yes, I feel like I am.
Yeah, she reminds me of Thornton, because Thornton never sleeps. So, I have a question for you, for people out there who are interested. I know we're kind of getting off, but this is all very important, because, we like to have this show be as informational as it can be for other authors and those who are, people wanting to get into it, people who've already been into it, people are looking for a way to make some money on the side. So as a ghostwriter, and I'm asking this question, out of curiosity myself, is your name always on the book? And do you ask for part of your money up front and then part of it at the end? And this may not be something people out there are thinking about, but it'll be a question they need to know, they need to have answered if they get into ghostwriting.
Absolutely. Yes. So I have learned the difference between co-authoring and strictly ghostwriting. Co-authoring being where, the ghostwriter or main writer's name is also on the cover and they get credit as well. I have not done any of that. So I am purely a ghostwriter. My name never shows up. I sign non-disclosure agreements and can't say who I work with. And so then, on the other side of that, I don't get paid in royalties for the book sales afterwards, but I do get paid for half of the estimated word count that I'm going for any given book in the series. That first half comes to me up front before I start the book, and the second half comes at the end when I turn it in, and adjusted to word count, because it is a rate per word that I work with. So that learning those differences, especially between co-authoring and ghostwriting, was huge for me in terms of allowing me to understand what path I wanted to take. Would this be something that I would want to be involved in and have my name a part of, or not? So that's definitely a good question and a good thing to understand beforehand getting into it.
Absolutely. It's a tricky business, I think, to go through. And do you, there was one thing that you were talking about, and it's your word count. So do you charge by the project? Like how many hours you think you're going to work on something? Because that's another question that somebody getting into this would need to know, how to charge for what you do.
Right. I charge per word. And it's also because of the fact that I write so quickly. If I charged by the hour, it wouldn't match up. But I do charge per word, and that is something that, that also takes a while to grow, your own reputation as a ghostwriter within that realm, which is mostly behind closed doors and most people don't see. So it is a lot of taking on as many projects as you can in the very beginning, over and over, and then eventually, I've been able to work myself up. And but I still do, for the most part, charge a certain rate per word. There are some nonfiction projects where I will cover everything in just a charge per project, but those are few and far between because I prefer fiction.
The fantasy.
Yes, yes.
That is amazing. Well, all good things come to an end. I think we could talk to you for a full hour and we would not even have enough time. So, we're going to take a short break. And when we come back, we'd like to know how people can connect with you. First of all, to find your books and how people can connect with you if they want to contract your services as a ghostwriter. So, let's take a short break and we'll be back very quickly in a moment. So do tell us, Kathrin, where can people connect with you, both to find your books and if they want to use your services as a ghostwriter?
Yes. Pretty much all of my information is on my website, first and foremost. That's kathrinhutsonfiction.com. Both my first and last name are spelled a little differently. So making sure I see that that's written down there, but just making sure it's spelled correctly. And on my website, you can also sign up to my newsletter, which is where I also, I hand out all kinds of fun behind the scenes stuff, and readers get access to my advanced reader copies of books that are coming out. You can also find me on Facebook at Kathrin Hutson Fiction, and Instagram at Kathrin Hutson Fiction, and on Twitter at Exquisitely Dark. And I always answer my emails, so any email that comes through, either as a reader or someone looking for ghostwriter, just email me at author@kathrinhutsonfiction.com, and I love getting back to people. Obviously, I should be answering my emails, but I do really enjoy replying to them as well.
That's awesome. That's awesome for your readers to have that connection with you. It makes you that much more valuable to them, and you to have more loyal fans when they can get through. They can get a hold of you. So I am excited to get to meet you today and learn all that you're doing. It's fascinating. And I know one day your husband and daughter will be like, "Yay, I'm so glad mommy works so much."
She got us here. This is fantastic.
Yes.
One day,
Yeah.
we're getting there.
Yeah, we own an island now, so we can do whatever we want, right?
My husband would agree with you. That may be one of his dreams. Yes.
Yeah, right. Oh, and maybe she'll follow in your steps. Okay, I have to ask you this fun question. Is your favorite holiday Halloween?
No, I'm not really a holiday person. So if I had to pick one, then yes, Halloween would probably be my favorite holiday.
Okay. You're too busy writing to even notice that the holidays come by, right?
What? There's the rest of the world is not working today? I guess. Yeah, I am. Yeah. I usually am.
You're taking off? What do you mean you're taking off? There's no days off, right?
No off days. Kathrin, thank you so much. This was absolutely amazing having you on the show, and we'd love to have you back again sometime. And so with that, we're going to say thank you to everyone for watching us today. Remember to write good stuff, be inspired one conversation at a time. And if you want to know when we go live, then please go ahead and follow our Facebook page. And over on YouTube, please hit the subscribe and the notification button. So with that, it's going to be goodbye from us at the Writers Corner live show, and we'll see you again same time next week.